Ballyclare District Historical Memorial Association. The bombing of Frizzell's fish shop on the Shankill Road. The Shankill Road has suffered much loss during the Troubles via the bomb and gun of IRA terrorists, the Balmoral Furniture Store in 1971, and both the Mountain View Tavern and Biardo Bar in 1975. But in 1993, one of the most horrific, mindless acts of destruction carried out with the most casualties was the bombing of Frizzell's fish shop in the heart of the Shankill Road, killing 9 Protestant civilians, 2 of them young children. Saturday the 23rd of October 1993 was a beautiful, bright, autumn day. Saturday had always been the busiest shopping day of the week on the Shankill Road, and this day was no different. Hundreds of ordinary people going about their business, doing their weekly shopping, with the bars and the bookies at their busiest too. Mr. Frizzell's busy shop was on the busiest part of the Shankill Road. Around 1:10, the explosion was heard, and chaos, confusion and destruction ensued. The people on the Shankill Road that day ran towards the carnage with no clue what they were about to face or how it would affect them for the rest of their lives. The only thing left of Frizzell's shop was the roof, and all the people that were in the shop that day were now buried under the rubble. On the street and road, people were pinned under debris, limbs being found that had been blown from bodies, one man impaled through the shoulder and cheek with a piece of wood. People remembered the smell and the thick white smog that was created by the explosion, making it so much more difficult to search for bodies. But this deterred no one, as the people of the Shankill Road that day continued to dig with their hands through what looked like a demolition site, with the hope of finding people alive. A 10th body recovered was that of IRA bomber Thomas Begley. The other bomber, Sean Kelly, was still alive. No one knew that this coward was the other bomber, and although he lay severely injured, he was still able enough to hide his gloved hands behind his back as he lay crying for help. Help he received from the friends and families of the innocent civilians that he had just murdered. The intended target was the UDA office above Frizzell's fish shop. Information had been passed that there was a members' meeting taking place. Meetings were never going to be held there on a Saturday lunchtime, and it was well known that Saturdays was the day most members would be on the prison bus going for visitations. The 2 terrorists had been driven to Berlin Street in a stolen car driven by a driver whose name has never been released. They were dressed in white coats to look like delivery men. Carrying the device in a brown box, they got out of the car and had to walk past hundreds of civilians, the majority of which were women and children, to reach their target. Reaching Frizzell's, the bombers would have seen the children in the shop. Young Leanne Murray, aged 13, who had just popped in to get the whelk she loved, her mother only in the shop next door. Parents Evelyn Baird and Michael Morrison, both aged 27, were in with their 7-year-old daughter Michelle. John Frizzell, the owner, and his daughter Sharon McBride, aged 29, both behind the counter working. Wilma McKee, aged 38, and husband and wife George and Gillian Williamson, all perished. Claiming the device had detonated early as to why no warning was given, they later stated that British agents were made aware of the attack by the IRA commander and police informant that had ordered the massacre, but they chose to let it happen. This was the reasoning from the IRA for many of their acts of senseless murder. The act of destruction carried out by the IRA was condemned by everyone. Gerry Adams himself had publicly spoken to condemn this atrocity and said, "This cannot be excused," offering sympathy to the people that suffered that day, only to throw it back in their faces as he carried the coffin of the dead bomber Begley in a full IRA funeral. Sean Kelly was given 9 life sentences, only to be released in July 2000 under the Belfast Agreement. Yet another disregard for the victims, their families and the survivors of the Shankill Road. The names of the IRA member who drove the bombers to the Shankill Road that day and the top IRA member who gave the order for the massacre has never been confirmed. Yet Sean Kelly walks about a free man with the answers to these questions, and no doubt the answers to many more.